Today, Switzerland is known for its chocolate and neutrality. Wedged between Italy, France, Germany, and Austria, the humble, non-belligerent nation and base for the founding of the Red Cross has scarcely made a bad name for itself in the recent history books. When we think of Switzerland, we don't really think of violence or political turmoil, but that's because we also don't really think about how Switzerland became Switzerland. Today, the nation known by the name Switzerland in English is actually officially known as the Swiss Confederation. With 4 official languages and 41,285 square miles of land filled with roughly 8.6 million people, when you start to pay attention, you may start to wonder, how did this nation begin? Well, the formation of the Swiss Confederation seems to have happened in a few stages. Back in the BC era, modern-day Switzerland was occupied by Helvetic Celts and would later be taken under the crown of the Roman Empire. From there, the region passed between Germanic tribes, Charlemagne, and eventually the Holy Roman Empire. It was during this time that we see the first phase of the Swiss Confederation starting on the path that turned it into Switzerland as we know it. First came the Old Swiss Confederacy. In 1291, 3 Swiss cantons from within the Holy Roman Empire decided to form an alliance amongst each other in response to the destabilized environment around them. These cantons, Uri, Schwyz and Unterwalden, agreed through a federal charter to jointly manage common interests, including defense and economy. While this wasn't the first time that such an agreement had been made, it is still marked by many historians and the Swiss state as the start of the modern nation's journey. This early confederacy would also grow fairly quickly, and by the 15th century, the 3 original members had welcomed in the city-states of Lucerne, Zurich, and Bern, in addition to the cantons of Glarus and Zug. This successful expansion was not praised by all though, and the Austrians, in particular, became agitated by it. Military conflicts between members of the Swiss Confederacy and Austria began to break out off and on throughout the latter half of the 14th century. This clash was a result of the ongoing strife between the Old Swiss Confederacy and the Duchy of Austria under the command of Leopold III and resulted in a remarkable Swiss triumph. Another victory came in 1388 when the Swiss and Austrians collided again, this time at the Battle of Naffels, and an even bigger turning point came for the Swiss in 1499 with the Swabian War. The Swabian War occurred between the Habsburgs of Austria and their Swabian League allies against the Swiss Confederacy with their friends from the 3 leagues of the Grisons. As before, the root of the conflict was a territorial dispute over other neighboring lands as the Swiss were continuing their expansion at the expense of Austria's own ambitions. The war lasted from January through September of the same year and resulted in a peace treaty that greatly favored the Swiss and essentially granted the Confederacy de facto independence from the Holy Roman Empire. Still, the Swiss cantons remained an official part of the HRE for a bit longer. However, their expansion did not end by any means. For example, in 1501 2 more cantons, Basel and Schaffhausen, joined the Confederacy, although this would be the last of such growth for a period as the events to come in 1515 and after would humble the Swiss greatly. In September of 1515, the Battle of Marignano between the Old Swiss Confederacy pitted against France, and Venice proved that the so far invincibility shown by the Swiss was not quite as bulletproof as they had hoped. Nonetheless, despite the crushing defeat, the Confederacy stood strong and moved on to the next obstacle, the Protes.